During medieval times, monks and nuns were often depicted as living lives of deprivation, strictly following their religious vows. However, the reality was often much more complex. Many indulged in forbidden pleasures, leading lives that diverged significantly from the austere ideals they were expected to uphold. Today, we'll dive into the intriguing topic of the many rules that monks and nuns in the Middle Ages often broke. You'll learn why many monastery inhabitants were frequently overweight. We'll also uncover how nuns entertained themselves after dark, and the meaning behind placing a candle near a window. Fasting. Did you know that the life of medieval monks wasn't as austere as it might first appear? While monks initially aimed to renounce worldly comforts, what went on behind the monastery walls often told a different story. One key example is their approach to fasting, which followed strict rules during the Middle Ages. When compared to modern-day fasting, the differences are striking. Despite the guidelines, monks in the medieval period frequently indulged in food and drink far beyond what was required. If you've seen depictions of monastery inhabitants from that era, you've likely noticed their rather full figures. Slimness was not common, as many monks indulged to the point of gaining significant weight within just a few months. Fasting during the Middle Ages was meant to involve simple foods, a small piece of bread, vegetables, fruits, and a little protein to sustain basic bodily functions. However, monks in the Middle Ages took a different path, indulging in gluttony. For instance, the portion sizes of bread they consumed increased significantly, often amounting to several loaves. Monks also developed a fondness for various types of baked goods, and their diet expanded to include a variety of delicacies, especially on festive or special occasions. Sweets and even seafood were common indulgences, despite the fact that meat was originally forbidden and only allowed when a monk's health was in decline. Alcohol. An unusual situation also arose regarding the consumption of alcohol, which is unsurprising given that medieval monks were among the first to master the art of brewing. Brewing beer held a special significance in conducting holy services, and was also seen as a way to curb hunger. However, much like with food, monks often failed to exercise moderation and frequently drank to excess. This led to jokes among the clergy about drunken monks becoming quite common. Money hoarding. Today, it's hard to imagine the immense wealth that once existed within medieval monasteries, especially when we think of these places as centres of holy service. However, monasteries in the Middle Ages were far from poor, and here's why. The clergy amassed wealth by acquiring and managing vast lands over the course of several centuries. Ironically, such activities were technically prohibited, as monks were bound by a vow of poverty, meaning they were supposed to renounce all material possessions. Yet, despite this vow, monasteries controlled large sums of money, which they managed independently. Daughters of debauchery. Let's uncover the truth behind the personal lives of nuns and their interactions with men. While young girls and adult women took a vow of celibacy, did they really adhere to it? Interestingly, the vow of chastity was officially introduced in the 11th century as part of church reforms. Later, in the second half of the 13th century, laws were enacted to punish those involved in homosexual relationships. But the actions of some nuns tell a different story. Tales of nuns sneaking out to meet lovers or writing passionate letters were not uncommon. In many cases at night, nuns would light a candle and place it near the window, signalling male monks that they were open to visitors. Since male and female monasteries were often located across from each other, this signal was hard to miss. When these encounters took place, the nuns would keep their clothing on and sleep in separate beds, implying that no intimate relationship was occurring. Additionally, a senior clergywoman was often present during these encounters, overseeing the situation. However, despite these precautions, many nuns frequently disregarded the vow of celibacy. For some, it was difficult to renounce the comforts and desires they had grown accustomed to. As night fell, nuns, both young and older, would often engage with men, something that might seem shocking and unreal today.